Hello, everybody. Um, this is kind of gonna be, I don't know, a little unorganized video. I mean, I do have my notes, but it's still unorganized in the fact that I don't exactly know what I'm talking about. This is kind of like this kind of miscellaneous stuff that I've thought about while listening to other detransition videos of people like currently, actively detransitioning and stuff. And I should have been just jotting them down as I went, but I've been just kind of jotting them down a little loosely. But yeah. So since my my detransition first started 6 years ago, um, I don't exactly remember everything that happened. So like looking back at these other people who are going through detransitioning, I've just been like, oh yeah, that's what happened to me, and also like making me think back on uh, what positives that came from transitioning and or attempting to transition, whatever. And I guess I want to preface this by saying, like, even though I have some good things that came of my experience, I'm not saying you should just do it just to see what it's like, or so you can understand the things that I do, or something else. Like, even though there are positives to come of it, doesn't mean that it's like I recommend doing it, because you're dealing with hormones and social things, social changes and peer pressure and all that kind of yummy great stuff. But anyway, what am I talking about? So I guess going off from the whole I don't recommend it, because when I was transitioning, it did kill my dating life, and I know I don't make it very obvious, uh, because mostly I've moved on from it, and my emotions have settled down since then, but while I was going through it, I wouldn't call myself a person who thinks about suicide, but that was something that kind of like crossed my mind as a possibility of doing. Like, maybe. Like, it was more of a passing thought than than a real consideration. But in any case, it was really bad. I did not like going through it. So here's some of the things that I learned um, while going through this experience. And this first point, I think, I don't know, I keep on thinking I wanna like make an elaborate video on it, but I don't know. I learned the the critical importance of gender roles in biology, and what, like, actually constitutes a man and a woman, and what they typically gravitate toward depending on their sex chromosomes and uh, sex hormones. And this one's more of a general thing. I learned that immediate gratification can lead to more trouble than it's worth. And so when I was first trying to transition, it was more like, it was kind of, I wouldn't say an impulsive decision, but it was close to it. It was like, I want to be this now. And I had this need, this very intense need to do this thing. And, that was get on hormones, and then also get into the doctor's office or the surgeon's office to start doing these things to make me look more like what I thought I should have been. And generally teenagers are very like, I need instant gratification, I need it now. Otherwise, I'll throw a tantrum, a teenage tantrum, which is what I basically did. So, you know, and obviously, having the immediate gratification of like basically skipping the therapist note, and also the just going to the go into the doctor's office, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, here's your drug. I'm not gonna think twice about it. Give me your money." And another thing I learned, which kind of goes into instant gratification, was also like I admittedly was a very stubborn kid, and I learned that just because you're stubborn and you keep on repeating the same things to yourself, like I'm trans, I'm trans, I'm trans, I'm trans, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't make you more right, and what is it? Any less wrong? Uh, I learned. I learned not right away, but I definitely learned how easy and kind of nice it is being a woman, and because I think I said in my life as a man video, I think it was that one, I was saying how like men generally are more invisible in society in a way, rather than women who are just, they, like I said, they just kind of exist and people notice them. From other detransition videos and stuff, or even just transition videos, these people will talk about how, like, depending on which gender it is, if it's a trans woman, they'll start saying, "Oh, I'm starting to get noticed more, and people are holding doors for me," and yada yada. And then on the converse of that, the trans men are like, "People started doing that less." So I would I would conclude that women get more favors than men do. So I can definitely kind of, appreciate the that sort of thing. I mean, it doesn't happen for everybody, but it happened to me and these other such people. I note here about the patriarchy. Women benefit off the patriarchy is what I'm basically saying. And so that's what I'm grateful for in a way. So, and, that also goes into the next point, like, I do recognize how difficult it is in a couple ways, or several ways maybe, how difficult men have it, not just on a societal level, but on a hormonal level too. Like, one of the biggest things that I've learned is that testosterone kind of turns off your emotions in a way. So, some people describe it as feeling numb, and it's like, when I was on it, like, testosterone made me like feel not excluded, but like separated from my emotions, and I couldn't really express them that well because of this thing. And it made me realize, like, why uh, men don't go to a therapist, or they don't go to someone to help them to figure out their emotions and feelings and stuff. It's not just because other men are like, "Whoa, what are you, a pussy? Why would you go into therapy?" It's just like, of course that has a lot to do with it, but it's also like a man just, I don't know, he's just not gonna do it. He's just not in contact with that. Like, at least from my experience and what other men have told me, some of them. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. The disconnect just makes it harder to come into contact with these feelings and express them to other people. I guess that's just basically my point. Because of my experiences, I can better understand men in general. Like, obviously not all of them, but like I can understand them a little bit more than uh, not only just before being on testosterone, but like uh, I mean, I can also pull this learning thing from having a gender neutral upbringing, I do understand men a little bit more because of that. But of course, I'm still female. I don't fully understand it. I can just kind of understand it on an intellectual level, what men kind of go through. And the average woman doesn't have that experience. They also don't have gender neutral parenting, so they don't really know. And by gender neutral, I mean like, gender stereotypes weren't really introduced to me, and they weren't enforced on me. That's what I mean. Not doing some crazy switching extremes or whatever, and I think that kind of thing has. I'm not guaranteeing anything, and I'm not saying like this is exactly the cause, but I think because of this new understanding that I have from the experience, I think it's made my relationship with my husband like improved, because it's just like I understand him on this level, and even though he doesn't perfectly understand me, it's like at least there's that kind of common ground between us. This next point is kind of got this from okay, her Kaylin, like that when she got it from some trans website of some kind, some form, I don't know, but I can look back and like appreciate the extremes that I put myself through, from being gender non-conforming to absolutely I'm gonna be a man instead. Like I can appreciate and realize my femininity and embrace that. So it's like it it does kind of make me wonder, like, what would, hypothetically speaking, what if I never went through it? Would I still be like more gender non-conforming? Would I, like, in that alternative universe, would I hate what I'm doing now? That sort of thing. Like, would I have still been stubbornly like this, or would I have just been like grew out of it and then just did this anyway? It's food for thought, but I don't know. It's impossible to tell. Even if the multiverse theory is like true, doesn't mean we can access it. But I'm gonna make a separate video on this. I don't know when, but at some point eventually. If I there's squirrels around. If I hadn't gone through it, I do wonder if like how different would my views be and my political views and stuff. I wonder, or social political views. I wonder if that would have like been the same or not. But when I snapped out of being, fake trans, I keep losing my train of thought. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that I think that was like the catalyst for me to like look back at my previous um, ideologies that I had subscribed to. And when I was a teenager and stuff, I wouldn't say I was like a radical feminist, but I don't know how I'd label it. I guess I was like a second wave feminist. I re-examined those, and then I started like looking more into other things that would question my previous beliefs, and it's like, I finally got out of that, as people commonly like to say now, the echo chamber of what is it called? Verifying your belief, not verifying, but just like a cyclical, like being around people who just blindly agree with you. It's basically, I finally got out of that. So I think detransitioning, like, supplied uh, some changes, if you will. And this is more of a actual reflection of what I had gone through at the time. And I've noticed that a lot of detransitioners also like kind of say the same thing. So whereas like the only like really happy thing that happened while transitioning was, it's getting cold out here. Why did I just bring a cardigan? I'm kind of shaking like a leaf over here. The only positive things I can say in the very beginning, where I was just so excited for all the changes and stuff. Finally, I get to do this. Like, not only was it like the instant gratification things, like, yes, yes, I got what I wanted, but it was also like, you know, getting the first injection. And it's like, oh yes, I finally got what I was so stubbornly going after. And then it was also exciting seeing all the initial changes within like the first 6 months or something. That was really exciting. And then after that, just kind of was like it plateaued for me, and I it couldn't really get any better for me from then on. And that's kind of where it went into eventually into the why am I doing this kind of thing if I'm not like continuously feeling that yes feeling, then why am I doing this? Yeah, so I got this little reflection off of don't get hurt by this. I'm gonna try to mimic him. Josh Truth. There we go. I don't know why. I'm sorry. It's the way you say it, Josh Truth. Anyway, so I was looking at one of his videos, and it was interesting how he said like there was two people like competing in his mind. For me, I would say like uh, after the novelty of first getting onto these hormones wore off, it was like I was taking care of an unwanted guest who didn't dress very nicely, also didn't shower much. You know, all those great things. I was taking care of that person, and that was kind of not a very nice thing. And some of these other points also come from this. I wouldn't say it's a new book I'm reading, but it's a new book I'm planning on reading. I was just looking at the. You can't see him, but my cat is prowling around. Alright. You can kind of. Yeah, oh yeah, you can see him. Wait, there. He's right there. Anyway, uh, I referenced it in my previous video, like how to prevent non-trans people from transitioning. Um, the book was published this summer, so like June. It was published in June on the 20th, I think, or at least it was published on Amazon at the time. And it's called The Irreversible Damage, and the subtitle I think is something like how the transgender craze is seducing our daughters, I think. So I read a little bit into the sample available on Amazon, and I related so much to it, um, and it made me think back on how angry I was. Goodbye, boy. On how angry I was back then, and I would get like, in my opinion, unreasonably angry at like my mom especially, and then my brothers if they either called me by my dead name, which I guess is still dead name. I mean, I don't use that name anymore, my birth name. Um, if they called me by that, and if they called me by, she, her pronouns, I'd get so unreasonably angry at it. And like looking back, I'm like, like a parent with a teenager around the house, they're always going to, like, inevitably they're going to come up with their angst, but it's like my angst was more in like a realm where most parents are like, what is going on? I don't understand these ideas that you're bringing out to me. So I have no idea how to handle it. That's like that kind of angst that you just don't, like, you don't have any you don't have any books to reference, you don't have any professionals to look into. It's like that's the kind of blindsiding kind of angst that I feel bad for my mom having to put her through that. And all that anger that I had, like, I'm surprised looking back at how, like, super extremely sensitive I was. And I remember being so vigilant on anytime anybody would say my pronouns. And if they said, he, him, I'd be like, oh, yes, thank you. That was so validating. But if they said she, him, or she, her, I'd be like, I'm gonna run to my room and cry, basically. Like, do cis men do that? I don't think so. Because I really don't like how sensitive I had been. Like, and I can say, like, oh my god. Sorry, there's squirrels just fighting each other or something. But anyway. And I can definitely see in other people who are still, like, trying to go through this trans phase as well. They're not really trans, but they think they are. They're also extremely sensitive, and they never want to hear the wrong pronoun, otherwise they will fly into a rage. Whereas if it's like, if you're super, oh my god, if you're super confident, the squirrels, if you're super confident in, like, totally okay with, the gender you identify as, cis or not, it's like if somebody, uh, gets your pronoun wrong, it's like, well, you can say, like, well, I I feel like a woman and I am a woman, or I feel like a man so I am a man. It doesn't bother me that they got my pronouns wrong because I am this. And that's how, like, trans people should, deal with, the wrong pronoun. It happens all the time, even with cis people. And this next point, I can't remember who I got this from exactly, but I think it was also Josh as well. Uh, because he was talking about how, or at least maybe in the comments or something on one of his videos, he was talking about how, like, he made, like, there was a character, whatever her name was, Janet. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Um, she was just somebody he'd made up. And I was also, like, looking into another MTF detransitioner. He was saying, like, oh, that was my drag persona, basically. That's who I was acting as. It wasn't, like, really truly me. It was just a character. And I realized, and then they were both kind of saying that it was like it's these men's idea of what a woman is, and so they try to act the part. And so for me, when I was trying to be a man, it was my idea of a man. And I hope I'm using this word right. I made this other person, this man, um, a caricature of what I thought a man was meant to look and kind of act like. And, that's not really a man. And in their case, it's not really a woman. It's just the idea that you have of one. And it's obviously not the same thing. I was also kind of thinking about dysphoria, which is unrelated to what I was saying. I think I've said it before that I don't really think I had gender dysphoria that much. I think I just had, hatred and distrust for women and femininity. So I don't really think I had dysphoria, but I wanted to note how, like, the difficulties that I faced, some of them while I was, being this caricature, while being trans, it made me a lot more stressed. It made me feel a lot more alert in, like, a survival sense. By that I mean, like, if I was, I don't really, I don't know, I've never really heard this word in this way, but people say clocked. And whenever I think of clocked, I think of somebody like really punching them in the face. You just clocked me as male. Like, what? What does that mean? But clocked seems to mean like you were gendered as this. But no, I was never beaten up. But no, uh, what was I saying? I don't even remember. I got so caught up in my fucking stupid joke. Anyway, just like being in that kind of fear of somebody, as I said, like about the sensitivities, not just being angry, but also being like very, like, Victorian, oh my god, and, just falling down and just weeping, blah, blah, I don't know. I don't know. I can just visualize a Victorian era woman, and she's just like on her chase lounge, and she's crying buckets for because of something mundane. And uh is anyway, not only that, but it's also like I like living in that fear of somebody, because I was also trying to be, stealth, so I didn't want really anybody like knowing that I was biologically female at the time. So uh there were some things that I was barred from doing because I still had the primary and secondary sex characteristics of a woman. So it was just like, I need to hide these at all times. And, keeping secrets in general makes you more stressed out in general. Here's a study. No, I don't. Anyway, so some of the things I feared at the time were taking off my shirt. How, like, a lot of guys will just throw it off and not really think anything of it. But as someone with these, it was a little bit difficult. So some of the activities that made me feel really horrible, I didn't like swimming because that requires, as a man, you're supposed to kind of take off your shirt and wearing a binder and then one of those like skin tight shirt things. I don't know. It's like, I feel like that's really unhealthy for, what's going on. You're compressing these things, it just makes it harder to breathe and all that. It's like wearing a binder as it is hard. Why put like, a layer of water around you, which is more weight. Anyway, removing my shirt on a hot day, like I would just have to wear like kind of just lighter weight t-shirts, maybe even tank tops a little bit, but it was just like I wanted to, pull all that off and just be like cooled down, but I couldn't do that. And also sleepovers were really hard to do because it was just like, especially when I was with my guy friends, and like I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% certain they knew I was trans, but for some reason I was like, I'm not taking off my binder. And I would just kind of, even though I should be taking it off and I shouldn't be wearing it for more than 8 hours, I was like, I have to keep it on because, I don't want them to see me with tittos, and just having those limitations just made it so much more stressful, so much more hard to just live life, and I didn't like these extra things. Those are some of the reflections that I've had about, going through that experience. And, there's some good things, there's some bad things, but again, I wouldn't recommend it just to learn some of these things. I feel like there's more bad things. I think there's more cons to going through it than pros. So I'm gonna try to be posting videos twice a week. I'm gonna attempt it, and if it becomes like too much for me, and like I'm putting aside too many of my other things that I'm doing, then I'm just gonna go back to once a week. But my schedule, I hope, is gonna be like posting every Monday, and maybe Thursday or Friday. I think that's seems pretty good. I guess I'll see you next week. Logistics. Yeah. Like, I feel so weird saying it because I feel like I'm begging for attention. You know, like, comment, and subscribe and stuff. And I encourage it because, like, commenting, subscribing brings more attention. And I guess that's a general reminder. If you like somebody else on YouTube, do it so that they can get more attention and you're supporting them. But whatever. I mean, not everybody knows that. So yeah. Anyway, goodbye. I will see y'all maybe Monday or something. I don't know. We'll see. Bye.